So top of the hour, it seems that the gap is becoming smaller when it comes to announcing the staggered approach that it seems that the government has undertaken when it comes to announcing fuel price hike. The first one was about 3 rupees. Then two of them, the hike that happened under 1 rupee. And this is now again a 2 rupee hike that has now been announced on part of the government. Petrol and diesel prices that has been hiked for the fourth time in the last 12 days. Amid the ongoing war and with the latest hike of rupees 2, the petrol prices have now in the national capital crossed the 100 rupee mark. Petrol prices that has now been hiked by 2.61 rupees, while diesel prices have been hiked by 2.71 rupees. So let's get you an on-ground report as far as when it comes to different parts of the country and how petrol and diesel prices are now looking at. We have Mohit, we have also Ankit, and we have Dev joining us live. Good morning to all of you. But in the meantime, let's get you exactly when it comes to the city-wise breakdown and how exactly are we looking at the fuel prices. So the fourth hike in the last 12 days. Currently, in the metros, if we talk about Delhi, last time when we were talking about the third hike, it was still at the 99 mark. Now it has crossed 102.12. In Kolkata, this is the costliest where we are looking at the petrol prices at 113.51, Mumbai at 111, Chennai at 107.77. That is what the petrol price is looking at. Now let's take a look at diesel prices. Diesel costing around 95.20 rupees per litre in Delhi. Kolkata 99 crossing almost 100. We are looking at Chennai at 99.55, Mumbai at 97.83. Well, that seems to be the fourth hike. We don't know if this is going to be the last one, though there are much more hikes that are going to come up in the future. Let's, in the meantime, connect with our reporters there. Well, Dev and Mohit is also with us, and Ankit joining us. So Mohit, let's get an update from you. As far as in the national capital, if you can show us the current prices which has now come into effect immediately.
Well, yes, in fact, right now we are reporting from a Janpat petrol pump, and you can see behind me is the new rates over here, and you can see the petrol is being sold at 102.12 rupees per litre, and the diesel is at 95.2 rupees per litre. So for the past 4 weeks, there have been substantial increase in the fuel prices, and in the end, people on the ground are faring the brunt, and you can see that how the premium petrol prices are also have gone up by 111 rupees. That is the current price over here. We can see people over here in the morning, they have come up and they have feeling, sir, फिर से रेट बढ़ा है पेट्रोल का, आम आदमी को सबसे ज्यादा नुकसान होता है. आप कैब चलाते हैं, कितना फर्क पड़ता है?
सर फर्क तो पड़ता ही, काफी फर्क पड़ता है जी.
तो आपको लगता है कि कहीं ना कहीं जैसे कैब के रेट भी अब बढ़ेंगे, बाकी चीजों के रेट भी बढ़ेंगे, चीज बढ़ती है, रुपए बढ़ते हैं,
जी जी सर.
कितना नुकसान होता है, कितना ज्यादा फर्क पड़ रहा है पिछले एक महीने में?
काफी फर्क पड़ रहा है. तो वैसे मैं उत्तराखंड से हूँ, नैनीताल जिले से हूँ जी. मेरा दिल्ली अप डाउन रहता है सर.
तो आपका तो ज्यादा खर्चा होता होगा?
जी बिल्कुल सर. रेट वैसा मिल नहीं रहा टैक्सी का. पेट्रोल पे और डीजल पे रेट बढ़ रहे हैं, वैसे उस पर नहीं मिल रहा हमें रेट जी.
So there you see the people over here. We just spoke to a cab driver who said that he travels daily daily basis from Uttarakhand to Delhi, and it is surely going to impact him. And yes, that is one important point, Amita, over here. It's not just that the fuel prices have gone up and people will have to shell out more money to ensure that they refill their tanks, but the essential items like groceries, vegetables, and the other products will also go up, given the fact that transportation costs will also go up. And right now we can again show you our visuals, the petrol prices in Delhi as of now. The diesel prices are at 95.2 rupees per litre, 102.12 is the petrol price. And when it comes to premium petrol, the price is at 111.11 rupees per litre. So in the end, people will have to shell out more. In the end, they are suffering because people say that their income is not going up, but the prices have gone up, and also this will have a cascading effect on the transportation of the daily items, the items of daily need like fuel, like food, like groceries. So in the end, the inflation will go up, and perhaps that is why the people over here are coming out and they are saying that this will surely majorly impact their pockets. Back to you.
Absolutely, because it's going to do that in the long run as far as almost when it comes to this hike that has now been reported in the last 12 days, the prices of petrol and diesel that have seen another hike, and this is the fourth such hike less than 2 weeks amid uncertainties that still stem out of the US-Iran conflict in West Asia and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. The opposition already starting to question when it comes to the government and the politics that seems to be playing out. Let's put out exactly what Manickam Tagore of the Congress party has now been saying. There are other leaders from the opposition who are continuously attacking the government, and this, as far as when it comes to the Congress party, going on to say that the OMC laws, the argument that according to the Congress leader he's demolishing. He says that the OMCs are losing rupees 38 per litre on diesel today. Let's ask, where did the 81,000 crore go? When it comes to the three major oil companies that posted 81,000 crore record profit in the financial year 24, while you paid 100 rupees plus per litre, they made profits for 7 quarters and passed on zero to consumers. And crude crashed in 2016. They hiked the excise by 11 per litre, and the OMCs have been making record profit. But when it comes to the losses that flows up to you, the profits that they keep with themselves. Now, this is the kind of counter that is now coming in from the opposition side, because we have heard it coming from the opposition, multiple leaders that have been raising questions when it comes to the oil, companies there. If, when there is recession or there is a fall in crude price hike, crude prices there, then why is that benefit not passed on to the consumers? That seems to be the question they are asking, because it is important to know that India imports over 80% of the crude oil and it processes and pays in dollars, making it doubly vulnerable to both the oil price spikes and the currency depreciation.
Well, yes, absolutely. It is very important to note the fact that the OMCs had been incurring and bearing losses for a considerably long amount of time. In fact, the prices have been raised after a gap of nearly 4.5 years. However, it is extremely alarming because the way the spike has been carried out and the way the prices have been raised on CNG, oil, on petrol as well as diesel in nearly half a dozen cities across India is surely a cause for concern, because the consumers are saying that they are helpless and they are forced to buy at such an expensive rate. However, it has entirely disrupted their monthly budget. Several of them paying fees of children for tuitions as well as schools. The transporters are also complaining because they are not able to pass on or rather increase the prices and take that kind of money in terms of fare from their passengers as well. So they are bearing the brunt. In fact, even the delivery partners, Swiggy and all of these food app delivery guys have also been saying that while we continue to pay a higher price for petrol, our bosses don't understand that what was earlier going in our pocket will considerably get reduced. So what are we really making out here? So of course, however, this is not a time to play politics, but the bigger concern out here is the common man. Because the common man is of the opinion that because of the fact that there is no end-to-end connectivity of metro or late-night availability of e-rickshaws as well as those battery-operated rickshaws, they're forced to take their own vehicles.
That is now passed on to the common man, and to such that we are now looking at, even in staggered approaches that the government seems to be undertaking. It is not just in one go, so we still don't know how much, fuel price would be hiked in the coming days. Let's in the meantime take a look at other opposition reactions that have been also coming in. Here is Priyanka Chaturvedi of the UBT faction of the Shiv Sena saying that in Mumbai, petrol prices has reached Shagan ka number, which is around 111, diesel touching 100 in metros in the next price hike, what is likely in the next 24 hours. So they are not ruling out that there is much more to come as far as when it comes to the petrol and diesel prices are concerned. Petrol prices that have already crossed the 100-figure mark in all of the metros, if we talk about in Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, and also in Chennai, and Kolkata having the costliest petrol prices, and even when it comes to diesel prices that are also nearing the 100 rupee mark. So this is what we are now getting to know on part of the opposition reactions there. Of course, when it comes to in the coming days, if there are more hikes that are going to be planned, this is something that the opposition has now maintained, because the pressure on the OMCs that actually reflects the scale of India's exposure to the West Asia crisis and the economic challenges that the country is facing. So the 4 price hikes that began from the 15th of May, and just this was days before when the Prime Minister has issued, the request that the appeals that he made to the people there when it comes to lowering their fuel consumption. And that is what we are now looking at. In the last 12 days, there has been 4 hikes that has been reported. So on the 15th of May, first hike that was reported of rupees 3 in petrol and diesel. On the 19th of May and on the 23rd of May, we are looking at a when it comes to a hike, which was not even a rupee, and now we are looking on the 25th of May, around 2.61 rupees hike that has been reported. Mr. Tom Vadakan of the BJP is connected with us. Sir, good morning. Well, people again are waking up to another fuel price hike. This is the report coming in. This is the fourth one in the last 12 days.
Well, this is a situation that is caused not by an internal issue. This is caused by an international situation which is beyond our control. And in terms of foreign exchange, this is one of the most highest level of expenditure that we face. So it is important that we, as the Prime Minister rightly said, we need to rationalize our usage of petroleum products, because till such time as the situation stabilizes across the global situation, it is necessary for us to bear this burden. But then this is something that is medicine, but I think this is something that is required. And as I said, medicine, in the long term, it will be useful for the economy.
All right, sir. Let's see, because the Congress is already putting up questions and they are now asking that when it comes to the benefits, if the crude oil prices crashes, why is it not passed on over to the Aam Aadmi? Because we don't know if the fuel prices have already touched rupees 100, and if the fuel prices stabilize in the coming days, will the fuel prices then go down, sir?
It certainly will be looked at. I mean, this is not something that the government has any intention to put the people under. To put people in trouble on these issues. It will be relevant that we maintain peace, and the Congress's agitation is misplaced, because essentially you are fighting against a national interest, because the highest cost on our exchequer is known, and during the Congress period too, these kind of situations have emerged. They need to look at themselves passing judgment on the present government.
Thank you, Mr. Tom Vadakan, for joining in. Well, that seems to be the same focus that we are now looking at, especially when it comes to the fuel price surge that we are looking at, because the opposition has been taking pot shots at the center, the Congress calling out the double standards and citing that there are 12 years of data to take on the government, saying that when the crude prices were low, then the benefits were not passed on to the consumers. And this is what we are looking at in the last 12 days when it comes to continuous hikes that has been reported in fuel prices. Ankit के पास जाते हैं हम. Ankit, सवाल यही उठा रहे हैं, चाहे अगर लोगों के पास जाए कि महंगाई बढ़ती हुई जा रही है, लेकिन सैलरी में कोई बढ़त नहीं हो रही है.
बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हैं आप. पिछले 2 हफ्ते में ये चौथी बार है जब पेट्रोल और डीजल के दाम बढ़ते हुए नजर आ रहे हैं. जम्मू की अगर बात की जाए तो 104 रुपए पर लीटर यहाँ पे जो पेट्रोल का दाम है वो यहाँ पर बढ़ता हुआ नजर आ रहा है. ये साफ तौर पे आप देखिए कि किस तरीके से 100 के पार पेट्रोल जा रहा है, लेकिन आम जनता की जो कमाई है वो भी नहीं यहाँ पे बढ़ती हुई नजर आ रही है. साहब, आज एक बार फिर पेट्रोल डीजल का दाम जो है वो बढ़ चुका है, लेकिन आम जनता की जो कमाई है वो भी नहीं बढ़ रही है. कितना इफेक्ट कर रहा है खास तौर पे आपकी जेब पर?
देखिए सर, इतना जेब का खर्चा तो है ही है, पर डेली के जो खर्चे हैं उसमें बहुत बड़ा असर पड़ा हुआ है, क्योंकि जो हर बंदे का अपना अपना बजट होता है. तो तेल के महंगाई को देखते हुए हर बंदा सफ़र कर रहा है कि ये मतलब कि हर 4-5 लीटर तो बढ़ा ही है. तो ज़्यादा ना कहते हुए कि पहले भी था, पर कांग्रेस टाइम भी था, थोड़ा बढ़ता था. अब तो महंगाई का बहुत ही
महंगाई ज़्यादा है,
इसलिए हम
तो ये देखिए, ये यहाँ पे रिएक्शन है. कुछ और भी रिएक्शन लेने की कोशिश यहाँ पे करेंगे पेट्रोल पंप से. जो यहाँ पर लोग आ रहे हैं, पेट्रोल भरा रहे हैं. जम्मू में तकरीबन 100 रुपये पार पेट्रोल जाता हुआ नजर आ रहा है. एक बार फिर भाई साहब पेट्रोल महंगा हुआ है. ये चौथी बार है कि जब पेट्रोल महंगा हुआ है. आम जनता की पॉकेट पे असर है?
बिल्कुल सर.
दाम बढ़ नहीं रहे, पैसे पेट्रोल और डीजल के बढ़ रहे हैं. आम जनता की जो तनख्वाह है
वो सर वहीं पे तनख्वाह नहीं बढ़ रही, पर तेल बढ़े जा रहा है.
तो ये देखिए, ये यहाँ पे मिक्स रिएक्शन हो जो लोगों के यहाँ पर है वो यहाँ पर मिल रहे हैं। लोग काफ़ी परेशान हैं क्योंकि लगातार पेट्रोल और डीजल के दाम जो है वो बढ़ते हुए नज़र आ रहे हैं। जम्मू में ही तकरीबन 104 रुपये जो है वो यहाँ पर बढ़ता हुआ नज़र आ रहा है। कुछ और भी लोग यहाँ पर हैं, उनसे भी बात करने की कोशिश करेंगे।
Because we are going to play out exactly what has been the government's point of view, especially when it comes to a day before the first hike. We are looking at what the government has been saying, that even despite in the last 4 years fuel prices have not been increased and India still is in a relatively stable position, has sufficient stocks of crude oil, LNG and LPG despite the ongoing disruptions around the Strait of Hormuz. Listen into the minister himself.
वेस्ट एशिया में युद्ध चल रहा है, आज करीब उसके कितने 80 दिन होने वाले हैं। पिछले 4 साल में हमने ये दूसरा मेजर युद्ध है। पहले रूस और यूक्रेन के बीच हुआ, वो 4 साल फरवरी 2022 में हुआ, और अभी पिछले 80 दिन में ये युद्ध चल रहा है। तो इसमें कई हमारे पास नई समस्याएं जिनका सामना करना पड़ता। तो मुझे बहुत खुशी है आपको ये बताते हुए कि भारत एक ऐसा देश है विश्व भर में जिसमें ना कच्चे तेल की, ना पाइप नेचुरल गैस की, ना एलपीजी की कोई कमी हमने होने दी। एंड समय पे माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने निर्णय लिए। हम वाराणसी में, काशी में हम ये चाह रहे हैं कि जो पाइप गैस कनेक्शन थे वो ज़्यादा तेज़ी से, जो एलपीजी कनेक्शन थे उसको ज़्यादा तेज़ी से पाइप गैस में कन्वर्ट किया जाए। पर अभी इस समय कंपनियों का 1000 करोड़ का एक दिन में ओएमसी जो है वो लॉस हो रहा है। अंडर रिकवरी तो और भी ज्यादा है, पर स्पिरिट बहुत कोऑपरेटिव थी।
So let's talk about the data that is now being shared as far as the government sources on the fuel price hike, and saying that India has seen one of the lowest fuel hikes that has happened globally, and it is just about 7.5% hike that has been reported in India versus around 10 to 90% hike that has been seen and witnessed worldwide. Now this is coming in as far as data is concerned that India has held prices steady for at least 78 days despite the war and the situation that still remains volatile in the Middle East. So here is the minister there just before the hike that was first one was announced, as far as saying that India has converted the challenge into an opportunity by boosting domestic LPG production, and also asking that the government was closely monitoring the situation and has urged when it comes to panic buying and also calling for voluntary moderation. To the government sources data that we are picking up, India is still comparatively very low when it comes to the fuel price hike that has been announced globally.
Well, yes, and the government has been saying this, that for 78 days they held their ground, and the pressure that was on the government, on the ministry and on the OMCs, that was not passed on to the consumers, but in the end, when they reached the threshold, they had to increase the prices. But when it comes to the comparison, I would just like to read that how exactly there have been, when it comes to various other countries, specifically India's neighbor, how rates have gone up. We know for a fact that in Myanmar, the petrol percentage has been changed from around plus 89%, in Malaysia 56%, Pakistan 54%, UAE 52%, and so on. So various countries generally have increased their prices post the blockade that is going on in West Asia, and still we do not know about when exactly the Strait of Hormuz would be completely open. Also, the government sources say that it's also incumbent upon the state governments to ensure that they pass on the benefit to the people. How? They can reduce the VAT prices, and perhaps that is why the government says that the prices in various states are according to the VAT that is being levied over by the state government. So, for example, in Delhi, the petrol prices are at 102 rupees. Then, in various states, the petrol prices have gone more than 110 rupees because of the VAT. So, clearly, the government says that when it comes to the comparison to the other countries, or when it comes to the VAT, we are still stable, but then the prices have gone up, and in the end, the common man will have to bear the brunt. And you can see over here that how, again, I like to show our viewers the prices of fuel in Delhi. The diesel now will cost people more. Diesel will cost around 95.2 rupees per litre. The petrol would be around 102.12 rupees per litre.
Yes, but the assurance that is coming from the minister himself, where he has said that India has not increased fuel prices in the last 4 years and still has sufficient stocks of crude oil, LNG and LPG despite the ongoing disruptions around the Strait of Hormuz. Now, as far as the disruptions are concerned, because there seems to be such positive indication that there would be a peace deal signed very, very soon, and for the first time in several weeks, we are looking at the Brent crude prices that have now gone below the $100 per barrel mark. We are looking at the Brent crude prices that currently stand at $98.27 dollars per barrel, and this is in weeks that we are looking at. Just few days ago, when it comes to per barrel prices that had gone up to crossing $110, $111 per barrel. However, this seems to indicate certain positivity that is now coming across from the Strait of Hormuz, especially when it comes to the reopening and the kind of assurance that President Trump has now made. However, it remains to be seen when do we actually see a peace deal being signed. But there are indications that have been coming in. And of course, when it comes to the Brent crude prices, that immediately see that kind of reflection when it comes to across the world, when it comes to the sentiment that is also reflected across the market. So when the markets open up, we are going to see how the Indian markets also react. But for the first time in weeks, we are now looking at the Brent crude prices, Mohit, has now gone beyond $100 per barrel mark. This seems to be, a slight relief, but how longer, does it stabilize and how longer will it take the relief to actually come to India? That also remains to be seen.
Well, Amita, as of now, the Brent crude prices have gone down to 98.274 and they have dropped below $100 per barrel. But the question over here is, Amita, that whether this will be passed on to the customer or not, because when it comes to this news has come today, and the news has also come today that the prices of fuel have gone up in the country. So it's incumbent upon the oil marketing companies that when exactly they will be able to, recover their losses, and perhaps that's why everybody is asking, and that is why the opposition is asking. Then when the Brent crude price was around $60-65 per liter, why that the benefit was not passed on to the consumers, and now it has gone to around $100 per barrel, then why exactly the OMCs are rising the prices, increasing the prices? But it's all because of the West Asia conflict, and you can see
sources have been highlighting that the price difference across is because of the excessive VAT that has also been incurred on part of certain opposition rule states. The OMCs were losing heavily, and this seems to be only a partial pass-through that is now done. This is the fourth hike, viewers, that has now been made in the fuel prices in the last 12 days. We don't know if there are more to come. However, when it comes to cutting down on the fuel consumption and, when it comes to also what the Prime Minister has said to follow the advices and the request that has been made, that seems to be the need of the hour. In the meantime, we head into a very short break.